Welcome to the feature series, How Roger Penske Changed the Indy 500 on the Marshall Pruitt Podcast, which celebrates the most successful entrant at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on the 50th anniversary of his first event in 1969. Presented by Cooper Tires, the Justice Brothers, and Bell Racing Helmets, a long-standing partner of Team Penske. This 15-part series spans some of the greatest drivers, managers, mechanics, engineers, and the man himself, Roger Penske, to document the captain's vast influence on America's defining motor race, the Indy 500, and in many instances, the sport as a whole. We'll also be joined by a reporter who covered Penske's Indy debut a half-century ago and some of his fiercest rivals, many of whom admit to being fans of the 82-year-old icon. Our guest on this episode of How Roger Penske Changed the Indy 500 is the inspiration for it all, Roger Penske. Roger, we're obviously celebrating you and this amazing team now in your 50th anniversary of competing here at the Indianapolis 500. Would love to start off with a topic that has come up from a few people I've interviewed who've said they believe your days as a driver would have been a pretty significant influence to what you saw here at Indianapolis on your debut as an entrant, and also as being a team owner in sports car racing, possibly. So we know the team's legacy is so centered on Indianapolis, but I'm curious what comes to mind of your time as both a driver and an entrant in sports car racing that maybe contributed to such a strong debut.
Well, I think, as a driver, you certainly understand the trials and tribulations of having a good car, maybe not such a good car, and obviously results. And, I had a good run as a driver in sports cars, had a chance to take a test here in Indianapolis, but because of my work at Alcoa, I couldn't get off, and Mario Andretti took the test, so I think that all worked out well for him, and I went on to be in business. But early on as a sports car driver, I needed sponsorship, and I remember going to DuPont in Wilmington, and Tellar was a coolant for the radiator, and we got sponsorship. I think it was about $400 a race, so things have certainly changed right now. But I tied it all together, and I remember in SCCA they didn't want you to have any sponsorship on the car, so I used to tape it up, and then the tape would come off about the second lap. But that was those days. But I think as we looked at Indianapolis, and having Donahue, as a driver that had been so successful with us, and Sun Oil Company was our major sponsor, in our Can-Am days, and the things that we were doing, certainly from a overall standpoint in Trans Am and things that were important to us in sports cars, we were able to reach out to Sunoco and talk about a program, coming to Indianapolis. And I said it would take probably 3 years before we could win the race. It turned out it was 4 years. We obviously had a strong car in 71 and then had a gearbox problem. But I think the experience as a driver, dealing with certainly great sponsors in sports cars and having the continuity, which we've done from a sports car basis to an Indy car, the B2B part of this was important. And Sun Oil Company was really the first real world-class sponsor that I had, and we brought them to Indy with a program to try to succeed and win the race.
One of the fun stories that never gets old about the team's introduction here in 1969 was the fish out of water approach. College kids, everything pressed and clean. Going a little bit of a wild, wild west culture here that Indianapolis was known. Tell us about that. I know that you guys were, I don't know if ridiculed a little bit, but I know that there was a little bit of sensitivity to, these guys are a little bit different than what we're used to. What was it that you were just trying to represent from the outset?
Well, I was really oblivious to maybe conversations behind my back, quite honestly. We came here like we went anyplace else. We represented our sponsors with yellow shirts and the logos, and we decided when we came that we would put yellow tile down on our floor, and I think that's what really killed everybody, because every night we pulled everything out and polished and waxed the floor, so that was somewhat of a change of course for most people. But, you had guys like Andy Granatelli that, STP, he was certainly championing his brand. And overall, you looked at a lot of the cars in the early days, they were representing certain sponsors. But we came here with a vision to win. Donahue was certainly focused, an engineering cat, and we put it together. Carl Kienhofer had been a great chief mechanic for me when I drove the Porsche Spyders, and to me, we had a group of people that were, worked together. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway was a vision I had from the time I came here with my dad in 1951, and obviously wanted to compete here, either as a driver, as a car owner. I couldn't do it as a driver, but certainly as a car owner, it worked out well, and the rest is history.
You mentioned Mark Donahue. Curious to know, RP, how much of Mark's imprint do you believe remains on this team 50 years since your debut, that unfair advantage that's so heavily associated with him and you? But looking here, 2019, month of May, do you still see Mark's imprint?
Well, I think, we picked up, this theme of unfair advantage. What we were trying to do is, go to the next step. We were never good enough, wasn't good enough. And I think that there was a lot of monkey see, monkey do, in this sport over time where people copied the guy next to him. Well, we tried to go a step further. I remember when we got the McLaren and we went to test it at Phoenix, we actually took the wings off, and Mark ran the car without the wings, and then we put the wings on, and we saw the effect of the downforce. And this gave us opportunities across many things. The first time we came with air jacks, and we had the long wheel nuts on the Trans Am car, and the air guns, and just it came on and on. These are all things that were obvious and very quick for other people to pick up. But I remember putting disc brakes on the Javelin. That gave us a very competitive car in Trans Am. So to me, Mark was one that he never said no, and we were able to execute. And I think with his racing knowledge and technically savvy how he was, it gave us a chance to combine those. And I certainly was interested in risk. With no risk, there's no reward. So I pushed, and I never had anybody turn back and say, no, we're not going to do that. And I think that gave us, somewhat of an advantage that people called it unfair.
Since 1954, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway has served as the proving grounds for the world's most legendary helmet brand. From Jimmy Bryan to Mario Andretti and Helio Castroneves, Bell Helmets has and continues to protect some of the all-time greats. Follow the journey on social media at Bell Racing HQ or by visiting bellracing.com. You like to use the term human capital when you refer to the members of Team Penske today, in the past. What is that? How do you define that? What does that mean to you? Because I know it's said as a term of reverie.
Well, human capital, you can talk about capital in your business, which is money, it's bonds, it's returns, but human capital is people. In my language, it's just people. Instead of talking in people, it's our human capital. That's the value of the company. And to me, in many cases, we can borrow money, we can do things, but you just can't get good people. And I think you got to grow them, and you got to have them want to come and work for you. So we say human capital is the top of anything we do.
Another big part of Team Penske's legacy here at the 500 and just throughout so many years of the IndyCar operation was Penske cars, the decision to not buy an off-the-shelf name the brand. Where did the germination of maybe we should do this ourselves, where did that start, and what stands out from that legacy that went on for decades?
Well, I think that, I drove a Cooper Monaco, and we had a relationship with the guys in the UK with Cooper and many of the people, and I think that I saw an opportunity to really, because the cottage industry was really there building Formula One type cars, that I could buy this shop from Graham McRae and put a team together, and that's what we did. And we felt that that would give us an unfair advantage, and certainly for many years it did. And I remember coming here in '78 with a car that was like a Formula One car, with a Cosworth in it, and Mears could have won that race that year, and we had a couple things that went wrong, and he won it, and obviously in '79. But I think it was the ability to chart our own future, have the ability to build what we wanted, and not everyone else had one. On the other hand, many times we went down the road, we were not successful, and it was less expensive. And certainly, we could do what everybody else does. Then it was about execution and the driving. But Penske cars was just a key piece of it. Nick Guzet, Heinz Hofer, Derek Walker. Just you think about Clive Howell. All of these people all came out of Penske cars, and they were really, the bedrock and foundation of a lot of our success. And Nigel Bennett, Jeff Ferris, you just think about some of the people that came with us from the design perspective that really set the stage, for our success.
A couple of closing questions, RP. I love this aspect about you I'm about to mention because I don't believe most people realize this. I think most fans would say 17 Indy 500 wins. You must come here just chest full, ego, proud, domination-minded. That isn't necessarily the case. You don't show up here expecting to dominate. If anything, you come here wondering if you've done enough.
Well, there's no question about it. I mean, this place, you win it one year and then you go to the next. And to me, it's about this next race. And it's hard to believe we won 17, to be honest with you. If I had to go back and think about how it all happened, it would probably take me a long time to understand each lap. I do know that looking at some statistics here lately, that we won 38% of the time that we entered here. We led over 2,300 laps, was more than 11 races. So that I do understand and understand the commitment. But the more you race here, the more you prepare. And I think the little things are what takes people out here. In many cases, we've made those mistakes. But, I don't look at we're some big guys that come in the Speedway and try to take over. Maybe people think we do from the outside. We're really low key here. I know it's a tremendous hill to climb. We come here in 2019. There's a lot of good cars, a lot of good teams. And to me, we're here to compete. People want to beat us and we want to beat them. And we have a requirement to deliver for our sponsors. That's why they're with us. And to me, it's one of the biggest tests we take. It's your annual meeting, I might say, in business.
The central theme here of this series of features is how you and the team have changed and influenced Indy 500. Are you aware of how much through your efforts, those who you've hired, almost half of the Indy 500s ever contested have had you involved in some way, shape, or form? Are you aware of how much of an imprint you've made here?
Well, my name's on the door, but there's no way I can take all the credit, for what's taken place and what will take place in the future, good or bad. I think it's a team effort. I want a flat organization. We go racing. The guy that drives the truck here, the one that airs the tires or cleans the shop is just as important as the driver. And the day we don't think they are as important is the day we'll never win. And to me, that's our profile.
Let's close on this, RP. How has the Indy 500 changed you?
Well, I think what it's really done, it's given me an opportunity as a businessman to take the notoriety and the success and the winning and use that as the theme throughout our business. It's given us the ability to attract people to come and work for our company. We've built a brand around performance and quality. And these relationships that I've been able to generate through Indy and the motor car companies, General Motors, Ford, Chrysler, Toyota, Honda, Mercedes-Benz, all of these have kind of germinated, from our racing success, because it's amazing when you represent someone's brand, the top of the organization all the way down through sees what you've done. And I think what I've been able to do as an individual is tie that business to business together, with our racing. And to me, that's given me a tremendous advantage over many other people because of that.
Thank you, my friend.
All right.
And that was how Roger Penske changed the Indy 500. You can catch this series and more than 500 episodes at the brand new MarshallPruittPodcast.com site. All brought to you by Cooper Tires, the Justice Brothers, and Bell Racing Helmets.